Hello, everyone. It's the top of the hour. I will take a few minutes for folks to catch up on the slides, but we can go ahead and take questions. I see that Rachel has one already. I will answer that. So this effort focuses on performance testing as a first-class citizen. Upgrade is implicit. We'll be going through the upgrade flows and raising issues if we see them, but the focus here is performance and making sure that on self-managed instances, they're not regressing or degrading.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you. Thank you, Sid. What's the status of the 10K reference implementation?
Hey, Mac,
Yes.
For people watching YouTube, it's much more fun if the questions are read out loud because they cannot view the Google Doc. Plus, it's just fun for the people asking questions to ask them. So what's the status of the 10K reference implementation?
Thank you for the feedback. I will do that again. Make sure you do that. So what's the status of the 10K reference implementation? We have lifted the work in progress status on the reference architecture. It's fully documented now and will be communicated to our customers. We will be running performance tests based on this first reference architecture. So the 10K is the first one. We have also identified 2.5K and 25K as the next steps to cover.
So when I Google for 10K reference, I find lift embargo as an issue. Why was this embargoed?
Oh, that's on me. We put a work in progress on the reference architecture when you were working on it. The lift embargo is to remove the work in progress disclaimer on the reference architecture. From my understanding, this has been done and it can be used to communicate towards our customer. The lift embargo term may not be a good term for this, so we could definitely change it.
Cool. So it's documented on the high availability page?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. Mac, I didn't see any other questions, so I'll ask this. Dimitri tried out Auto DevOps. And the problem is that for a lot of languages, especially the ones we don't use, it was kind of broken. Are we working on kind of, I'm not sure I should call them end-to-end tests. They probably go beyond end-to-end testing, but are we working on something to make that better?
I think this falls into localization testing. And I do not think we have enough staffing to cover this, but we should definitely have this tracked and scheduled. I think it is important to cover this. But as far as capacity planning and staffing goes, this hasn't been scheduled for Q3. If it is a high priority, we can definitely reevaluate. Is there an issue for this, Sid? I can take on creating this and capture this effort.
Yeah, there's for sure Dimitri's notes of the things he found. And when you say localization, do you mean in human languages or in programming languages?
Human languages, so different languages as you mentioned.
Oh, I was talking about programming languages.
Oh, I see.
So if you use Auto DevOps, it auto detects the language you're using, and based on that, it will do certain things.
I see. Got it now. My apologies. So the different programming languages. Yes, this has been on my radar. I was tagged in one of the issues. I think there's an issue out there that we will want some integration tests on Auto DevOps templates with different languages. It's currently as part of a backlog. We can bump the priority up and groom it as part of the configure test gaps analysis. I could provide more color there. We wanted to use API testing, leverage the API tests and not have a UI test automation and have sample templates on staging or GitLab.com that can just run periodically and with these flavors of languages and report back. There's a planning issue for that. I can CC you on that after the call.
Cool, thanks.
My pleasure.
If I don't see any other questions, I'll keep going. How much are we spending on running tests?
I do not have a good number on that right now. I would have to revert back. But from the cost analysis of test parallelization that we've done in Q3, for QA alone, I don't think it is that much. I think most of the cost is actually the CI pipelines. So everything in the merge requests. I don't think the QA integration tests at the end-to-end level is costing that much. I think it was 5,000 to not more than 5,000 per month. The bulk of it is our CI minutes that we would try to improve, potentially running tests only when we need them, and there's an issue for that.
Are you using end-to-end tests, QA tests, and integrated tests interchangeably?
Yes, they are relatively the same thing, but end-to-end, we could also be using APIs as well, and that is also in line with setting up multiple instances of GitLab. If we're testing Geo, for example, and people tend to use the term integration, we should probably just use one single term to describe this as end-to-end tests.
You're saying end-to-end tests can be used both the UI and the API?
Yes, because when you mimic a workflow, an end-to-end workflow, you can do it via a UI action or use an API to skip some of the workflows, but still cover most of the end-to-end user scenarios. So in the industry, it's being used interchangeably. But at GitLab, I think we should formalize on one term, and I would suggest using end-to-end tests for that.
For the UI tests, or for both the UI and the API tests?
For both the UI and the API, because we're essentially mimicking an end-to-end workflow.
Yeah, and those tests are in the QA project?
Those tests are in the QA folder in GitLab CE and EE.
And run by the QA team. So, yeah, is there a way to consolidate that a bit?
Meaning change the folder names to end-to-end?
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure that's the solution or go another way, but I think it's a bit confusing to have like three names, keep using three different names for the same thing.
Sure, we'll have an issue for that and formalize on one single nomenclature. Thank you for the feedback.
Hey, Mick, I got a question. With the acceleration of hiring, basically pulling in Q4 to Q3, I know it's not in the slides, but what do you think is the area that you're going to see faster progress?
I think we've been doing well in the test automation role and the engineering productivity role. I think we have made our last offer to our engineering productivity engineer. The quality engineering manager is becoming more of a focus for me, because we do want to do quality engineering the modern way. And there's folks that come in as QA managers that manages a team of just manual testers, but we don't want that. We want people that have done test infrastructure optimized for productivity. And that has been more of a challenge to source and get. We're currently working with Rupert and Brittany on how we can improve this. I also see a trend of this title changing at other companies. For example, they're not being called QA managers anymore. It's engineering manager in tests or engineering manager, test infrastructure. And those are the feedback that we will provide to the people ops team. So the short answer to that is the quality engineering manager role.
So focus on the manager roles, specifically in the areas of focusing more on automation. specifically. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So Mac, first of all, I really love the clarity around KPIs and OKRs for the QA department. I think they're prominent, they're clear, they're well documented, they're up to date. I think that's really well done. Question I had, we recently launched the merge request trains. Is that a feature we're going to use at GitLab ourselves, or do we not have this problem with feature branches that were green themselves being red after they get merged with master?
I'm sure there's an issue for this. It's in our list of backlogs. We were planning to use review apps with the combined reference with master and deploy your change with what is in master and test against that. I think that will help solve this problem. I'm not sure if that's what you meant by merge request trains.
Yeah, so merge trains is combining it with master. I think it's separate from the review app, because when a merge train kind of fails, because one of the kind of wagons on the merge request, you start retesting everything. So that would be redeploying the review app all the time, which I don't think is ideal. So I do think the review app that will be based on the feature branch. But I think before we can start, if you do merge request trains, you're going to have a lot more testing, because sometimes you have to retest. So that's why I was inquiring about the cost. So the end-to-end tests don't have a lot of cost. Do you have a handle on how much the non-end-to-end tests, the unit, they're more than unit tests. I think in Rails nomenclature that includes integration tests. How much that costs?
I don't have an exact number, so I would have to come back with a concrete number on that. I would say 20-something K a month from previous issues I've seen. It's also because some of the tests were rerun, as you said. We have a KR to improve this. We could definitely adjust as we go along to be more aggressive in lowering the cost and factoring it in as part of delivering the KR.
Yeah, although that's $250,000 a year, I'm not sure it's our biggest priority. I think it's more important to do the things that you said as goals, like make sure that all of our enterprise features are tested. I think that's a bigger goal. So I'm not asking you to adjust anything.
Got it. Thank you. We can follow back up with the merge request trains and factor that in as well if it's not.
I'll talk a bit about why I think it's important. I think at some point we now have over 100,000 tests that are run on every commit. I think we're gonna start seeing, hey, we cannot run every test on every commit, and we need machine learning to kind of figure out which tests break when you change what, instead of trying to assess that manually. I think that's a fool's errand. I think we have to let the computer do that. And that way you can also run the tests that are most likely to break first. So it will be a better user experience where you know that faults are found sooner. Also, it saves a lot on testing cost. And then things like a merge request train get more feasible as well.
Got it. Thank you. I think this falls in line with marrying machine learning and change detection and have a list of data that we can reference and make decisions on, having the computer do that. We'll make sure they have an issue to capture that. We have some basic change detection improvements, but I think this is an ambitious goal of going to machine learning and also building it directly in GitLab and dogfooding it ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also, you can also look at what file change. Based on that, I'm going to test. Maybe that's a good first step. I think that will be far from perfect or all-encompassing. Maybe it's a good first step to do that first.
Got it. Thank you for the feedback.
What Q3 OKR are you most excited about?
Closing all enterprise end-to-end test gaps. And that's where we put everybody on as a first priority as far as test automation engineer goes. The second one is improve our CI builds and pipelines. I think I would love to see folks here be happy at their jobs. And with that, we need to make sure that they get fast feedback. And we have an ambitious issue of going to 10 minutes. I can't promise that for Q3, but we will do our best to make improvements here on lowering the time. Currently, I think it's around 60 minutes. I think we should be able to get it back to 40 minutes and then follow up again with an ambitious goal to go to 10 minutes with aggressive optimizing and change detection management.
Cool. Can you elaborate a bit on slide 9 with K6 performance testing? And I'm especially interested in that, if that will be a feature that ships in GitLab for everyone.
Sure. I can also, let me give some context here. So we have identified the 10K reference architecture already. We're using this as the baseline to run performance tests on GitLab self-managed versions that customer will upgrade. In Q3 specifically, we want to run this on all the versions and catch up to the latest, which is 12.3 or 12.4. We've done this for 11.9 and 11.8. As far as the automated test process, this is a CI configuration in the performance project that we are using GitLab CI to run. I am not sure how we could make this available for customers. We could package a CI project or a configuration project that customers can configure. And
I'm more thinking in the line of making it part of Auto DevOps. So with Auto DevOps, you push code and we start a review app. We can also start a performance testing review app that we then load with K6, just hit the homepage with 1,000 requests, see how long it takes, shut down the environment. That was the idea. So not a reference thing, just something that works by default.
Got it. So it's a templatized testing in our pipelines that user can just run it as a feature.
Yeah, so it would be on by default. If I install GitLab and I push code, I get a review app, I get the performance testing. It should all work out of the box.
Sure. I think as part of dogfooding, it may take longer to implement, but if it adds value to our users, we should definitely consider it.
So it should work in the same way that site speed currently works. So we already, when we do this, site speed already tells you what is kind of the performance of the front end. This will be stressing the performance of the back end.
Got it. Thank you.
And then it's useful to see kind of, is it getting worse over time?
Yeah, I think Tanya is on the call as well. Tanya, what are your thoughts on that? I think that we need to update the QRs to capture maybe a special run job that runs artillery in our pipelines.
Yeah, we should add something, an issue explicitly for this. I know it's something that we've been discussing also with Drew as far as how do we make this extensible. I think that this path forward, something similar to a review app, but specifically for performance testing would be fantastic. I can work on making an issue for that.
That'd be great. And maybe we now call site speed, we call that performance testing. I think to disambiguate, I think we should call that web performance. And this other, we can call it load performance or something like that. I'm not sure about the second name, but kind of have them as separate features. Yeah, Dan says in Zoom, and then please leave the comments in the doc. But yeah, we have browser performance testing. That's the thing I'm referring to with site speed. And I think we should call that maybe something else, web performance, to make room for kind of load performance with K6.
Great. Thank you, Sid. And moving on to point 9, Olivier, thanks for the great work on label migrations, automations for issues and merge requests. What about epics? No, we do not have epic labeling on our radar yet. If you can, please create an issue in our issue tracker, the triage ops, and then we could put that in our backlog. Special kudos to the engineering productivity team. I know Remy, Mark Fletcher, and Genshin have been working a lot on optimizing the labeling migration. We could potentially reuse this logic for epics as well.
Mac, you talked a few times about changing priorities. I don't want you to change any priorities based on this call. I think the presentation is very impressive. It gives a great overview, and I'm particularly impressed you added the backlog of stuff you would want to do but aren't doing. It gives me an easy opportunity to prioritize something, but it shows I will not do that. The product managers are in charge, and thanks for the clear articulation of everything you're working on. It's really great presentation.
Thank you for the feedback, Sid. Thank you for the department as well. Everybody helps chip in. If there are no more questions, I would go ahead and end the call and then see folks in the company call. Thank you so much for your participation. We will continue to provide updates in the company call and weekend review, and I'll see everybody next time. Thank you.